Hey guys, welcome to my first live stream. I'd like to thank DC Fans United for hosting this. As the YouTube's got some 24-hour. Has it started?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Wait a sec. I've got the YouTube set up. So I'll start again. Sorry guys, got mixed up. Anyway, welcome to my first live stream. DC United is hosting it because I'm still waiting for YouTube to go for my 24 hours. So we're going to talk about video games and comics and the connection I've had over for a while. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat when I should be concentrating. From the very first Spider-Man on the 2600 right to the new Arkham Asylum games. So yeah, we've got DC United here and Larry King. Also, somebody else wants to join the chat. You guys don't mind if Millennium Number One can join?
That's up to you. You're the one. You're the de facto host.
Oh, okay. So, does anyone know who Millennium Number One is?
I
think
Miller I do, but I'm not sure. But
I'm not sure. Do we talk to you? Have we talked on Twitter? I'm not sure who Miller Number One is.
Well, he'd have to put it in the chat. He'd have to put his name in the chat, I guess, for DC to send him the link and everything. But yeah, with so we got video games from all the way back to the Atari, Commodore, and all that stuff with the 2600 Commodore 64, all the way up to the Xbox One, PS4, PC.
Yeah.
Which is
so. What was the first game you guys played that was a comic book inspired game? Mine was Sinister Six on the Super Nintendo, and it was very terrible.
Ooh, mine. I rented it from the video store. Or sorry, video station, which was a video rental store place. It was Justice League Task Force for the Sega Genesis, and it was awful. It was an awful fighting game. Because it looked really cool. It looked very action because the Justice League Task Force was a comic. At the time, it was like right after the Detroit era Justice League. This is before the Grant Morrison, and it, you had Flash and like the variant, like Batman there was like, I guess, the evil Batman or like purple Batman. It's like if two people chose Batman, one would get the purple one. Like, why couldn't you do like a different suit or something, or like all black, Batman, whatever. I'm overthinking it, but it was a fighting game and it was just not that fun. It was stiff, like a lot of those games were at the time. So, it was what it was. I wish it was better, but yeah, that was my first one, Justice League Task Force.
I remember playing that after I played the Marvel vs. Capcom or X-Men games. And I thought, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if Capcom got Batman and Superman and made a fighting game?
That would have been interesting. Now we got Mortal Kombat that did it.
Yeah, they did. I think they did. I think it kind of suits the Midway or the Mortal Kombat style more than Marvel do. If you think about it, I mean, I think Marvel's pretty much the Capcom, while DC's the Midway. Is Midway still exist?
Yeah, so it's underneath Warner Brothers actually now. So okay. Midway, Warner Brothers Interactive, bought them out. So it's just still Warner Brothers video game, the little shed, as it were.
Okay.
So what about?
Yep. Oh yeah. Hi, Ian.
Hello.
Hey, you made it.
So DC, what was your first video game based off a comic book?
Gosh, that's a good question. I never really had a console growing up, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Try and think about it. Like, I played a lot of PC games. There weren't really a lot of comic book games. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Crash and burn.
Right?
Man.
I'd have to try Ian.
Ian.
Hey.
Hey, what was the first comic book inspired video game you played?
Comic book. It's relatively recent. I'm not sure if I played the Marvel Heroes Online or the X-Men. No, it was on an Xbox. It was pretty old, like 10 years ago, and it's a top-down, third person, and you have the characters, and it's like an adventure game, and it's cooperative,
Oh, was that turn-based Marvel game? What was it
No,
called?
no, it was real time, and you like
okay.
with
Was
your
it the all the
team.
X-Men? You mean Ultimate Marvel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
Ultimate Marvel
Alliance.
The Ultimate Marvel Alliance.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
That
I
was
haven't
really
played
fun.
them. Are they any good? I've never played it. I keep seeing them around. I was like,
they're
maybe
very
I should-
similar. They're all basically the same game. You choose your character. Each character has different power. You actually get to put like more damage multiplier or a extra armor, or you actually change the costumes as well, which is kind of cool. Even though the designs are kind of ugly because they're really tiny. Like they're about like 2 inches tall on the screen, but you control a team of 4. Like the Ultimate Marvel Alliance, the first one, like I had a team that was Luke Cage in his old 70s gear, the purple, the pink, the yellow silk shirt, tiara, the Spider Woman, the 70s Spider Woman, Miss Marvel from the 70s, like with her belly showing and everything, like floating in the air, and Blade. So it's all like 70s heroes just going in and kicking ass.
Sweet Christmas.
Yeah, Sweet Christmas. That's like one of the little items you can get as like a multiplier or whatever. I think it's also might be an achievement, but there are, but it's basically just go around, beat stuff up, go around, beat stuff up. It's nothing really, like certain characters make it easier, but all of them are pretty much the same. X-Men Alliance, the X-Men Rise of Apocalypse, the X-Men games, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance are all very much the same, which isn't a bad thing, but if you don't like that, you get really bored quick.
I figured out my comic book game. Had to think about it. So I didn't have a console growing up. I had a computer, but I had a friend down the street who had a Super Nintendo. We'd play Double Dragon and Super Mario World and stuff, but we'd also play Turtles in Time, right? So
I knew someone would say that. I love that game.
Yeah, I really do. In fact, it's a different friend now, but he has a Super Nintendo, and we still play it sometimes and run through it. It's a great game. I've seen it ranked in the top. Like, I think Watch Mojo gave it the #1 beat 'em up game.
Yeah,
so.
I base all my choosing my
off of Watch Mojo.
Mojo.
For sure,
if it's not on Watch Mojo. No, it's awesome. I love that game. I had to rebuy it because I lost my copy. Because I'm a bit of a Super Nintendo collector.
Oh, probably wasn't cheap.
Wasn't terrible. I've also got the Japanese copy of Turtles Fighting Tournament. If anyone remembers that game.
No, how's that?
There was a fighting game with the Turtles, and it's interesting. I don't know. It must have been a licensing problem or something. But they only had Shredder, but they didn't have Bebop or Rocksteady. They had some guy called Wingnut, who was from the comics, I think. There was no Krang, which is a damn shame. But it also had like a robot. It wasn't Metalhead. It was some other name, some other code. But it wasn't terrible. It wasn't Street Fighter 2, but it was pretty cool. And it's cool to see the turtles fighting and all that. And the art in the book you got, the manual, it was so nice. And that was Konami. So it was one of Konami's first fighting games. And only fighting games, if I remember correctly. I don't think they've done any other fighting games.
Oh no, they did the X-Men game. They did the X-Men game, the stand-up, the classic X-Men, Welcome to Die. That's Konami as well.
Oh, I meant one-on-one fighting game. But the X-Men. Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Oh yeah, like kind of a Street Fighter style. Yeah. Okay.
It was more Capcom kind of deal, right? Marvel versus Capcom and all that. Remember that in the arcade too.
That always kicked my ass. I think I got carpal tunnel.
That game was tough.
Battling like X-Men Children of the Atom. That was another, and that was one I played in the arcades, and I saw it that it was available for the PS1. Never got it as a kid. I did buy a copy for $5 for the Sega Dreamcast, and I borrowed a friend's Sega Dreamcast to play it. And of course, his Dreamcast was busted, so I had this game. So eventually, I sold it because I could never play it. A couple years ago, I was at this used video game store, and they had X-Men Children of the Atom for the PS1. I picked it up, played it, and it just kicked my ass. It's great, but it's one of those, my hands, like I can't, like button mashing. I'm trying to do the correct combos with my fat fingers because the PS1 controller. I hate the PS1 controller. It's meant for tiny-handed people. It's meant for I don't have the biggest hands in the world. I don't got these giant meat hooks, but it's like playing it's like a giant, like the Big Show, trying to get inside of a clown car. It just doesn't work. It's like they can't use a controller properly.
Well, Iceman can go jump off a cliff, and Colossus can too in that game. Iceman is the cheapest character in that game, or in any time he's been in one of those fighting games. Actually, bloody chip damage. Hello?
It's sucky. It's really sucky when that happens. Sentinel, I always found Sentinel really hard. Same thing with Shiva.
I love Sentinel. I can kick everyone's ass with Sentinel.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, yeah, but yeah, it's like those fighting games. I mean, it seems very appropriate when these, comic books adapted into fighting games.
They picked it's interesting. Capcom, I think, got the choice of who they wanted to use in the fighting game. It was interesting. With Marvel with the Marvel superheroes fighting game, they chose the obvious, of course, but they also chose Sion Goyoff. Is that how you say his name? I can never say it properly. And Blackheart, which is really interesting choices because they go right back to the early ages of Doctor Strange and all that, don't they?
Oh, you mean the Shoggoth? Whatever. With the giant black eyeball with the tendrils and stuff.
Yeah, him.
Yeah, that right there. That's one of those.
That sounds awesome. What is this about?
X-Men, Marvel superheroes, the second Capcom fighting game.
There's a character who's just a big eyeball.
Yeah, he's an eyeball with tentacles. He's called Some Goyoff.
That's awesome. So is he like a villain or a hero, or what's his deal?
Shumager Roth. It's actually it's Shumager Roth, and Shumager Roth's deal is let's see. Look that up real quick. I actually I think I have an image of him too. Right.
Sounds like a boss in Contra.
Well, mind if I share the screen real quick?
Do it.
All right, do it. All right, this is Shumager Roth right here. Let's see if it loads properly.
It's my. Oh, sorry.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is Shumager Roth.
Thing.
It's like, imagine battling this thing. I mean, this is like, oh no, Shumager Roth versus Sakura. Oh no, that would be unfair.
And then he does the Chaos Dimension. He does Chaos Dimension, and then like a wall of power, and he would drag you up and suck you into a hole in the sky, and it doesn't tell you what happens to you, but it's probably not nice.
Is it the Shoggoth?
Although his true origins are unknown, before the arrival of the first host of Celestials, Shumager Roth ruled the Earth and commanded human sacrifice. Until time-traveling sorcerer Sisei Neg banished him, he managed to return to Earth, set himself up as a god during the Hyperborean Age, again commanding bloody sacrifice, but slaughtered those who sought his favor. Eventually, the power of Crom Power of Crom imprisoned him within a mountain. Crom! Do this, I beg of you. You do not sit hell with you. So, hey, he's a Marvel Premiere number 5, first appearance. So he's a Conan, basically. Conan, Doctor Strange, all that. Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
He's a Cthulhu character. He's like a Cthulhu character.
He was there before the Celestials, which is that's Cthulhu. That's Elder Gods, all that.
It's actually a pretty good character. He's pretty powerful in the right hands, too. He turns to bone and crushes you. He has Chaos Dimension. He has this where he turns into a spike ball and flies at you. He even turns into multiple versions of himself and attacks you. He's really well animated. As the later games went along, because they wanted to keep up the animation, they dropped the frames. But in Marvel superheroes, he was really well animated. All his tendrils would move, and it was pretty nice. It was a really nice model. Sorry.
But stuff like that's really fun though. Like when they choose weird characters like that, and was it Marvel vs. Capcom 2? They had Marrow, they had Marrow. Like if you say Marrow, who's Marrow? Like at the time, she was an upcoming character, and then they Marvel, of course, pushed her off to the side. They made her prettier, and then that killed her push. If you want to use wrestling terms, because she had these the bones coming out I liked her more than Wolverine at the time. I was so tired of Wolverine. I like this chick. She was a Morlock. She came from underground. She had a chip on her shoulder because like basically she had a crap upbringing, and she had to eat trash to survive. Think of like the scenes of the future from the first Terminator film. That was her existence. And she pulled bones out of herself and stabbed people with them and used them to climb up walls and like throw them.
Boomerang. She'd do boomerang. Was it boomerang? Boomerang. And they'd spin in the spot before they'd fall down. And so, let me ride. And she'd jump on you and stab you a couple of times. Man, I could have played that.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. Like it's just. Sorry, when I said Shiva earlier, I meant Spiral. Because she looks like Shiva with the multiple arms, or is it Vishnu? Either way, one of the Hindu gods. But it's like stuff like that. When they bring like those characters up, like I don't know if any of you guys were playing the most recent Injustice game, Injustice 2, but they brought over the TMNT and Hellboy. Their DLC.
Oh yeah. I want to overdo it with
a Turtles game. I really want them to do a Turtles game because I only use the Turtles now when I'm playing Injustice. They're so
exactly
perfect.
Though. Like it's the same thing as Soul Calibur 4 when they brought in all of the well, not all of them, but they brought in Star Wars characters. So then your best characters were Darth Vader and Yoda, right? Even the Jedi. So it was like, okay, you got a DC Injustice game. Oh, all the DC universe gets its ass kicked by the Ninja Turtles.
And Hellboy wrecks. He will wreck you up.
Exactly. So they should either like nerf those guys or just have better power scaling. Have some DC characters like the Ninja Turtles. Really, I'm pretty sure Superman could take turtles. Pretty sure Batman could take the turtles, and I love the turtles.
Tonight I have turtle soup. Tonight I dine on turtle soup. Now you should know that, DC, because that's from Turtles in Time.
Yeah, Shredder. Oh, but the SNES version, they cut out a lot of the It's not like the arcade, exactly, because they cut out a lot of the.
Better than the arcade.
Because I played the arcade version. It's better because it has more levels, but it's worse in that they cut out a lot of the little sound bits, like what you just said. I don't know if he actually.
No, that's in there. He says that. He says that in the SNES. Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know they cut out a lot though.
Yeah. Well, because the arcade's the arcade.
Like the intro when they're watching the TV.
That's changed.
Yeah, that's way shorter. Mm-hmm. They're both good though. Oh, of course, the arcade has the 4-player option, so.
That's true. And it took me ages to work out how to throw the stormtroopers into the screen.
Oh, man. On that one level, right, with the hooks where he's trying to grab you and you have to throw them. It's kind of tedious because you have to run into them and, like, knock them back and then grab them and throw them, but it's not a simple thing.
Yeah. As well, as it got harder, as you went higher difficulty, the Foot Clan robots could block you, so you had to run into them and grab them.
Exactly. Oh, okay, yeah, because they have the red guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
The purple guys were just cannon fodder, and then the colors changed. It's good. It's good that the Foot Clan decided to color code their foot soldiers, so it'd be easier to deal with them. So we know the red guys.
It's a really simple thing the developers did, just palette swapping, but it looks really cool because there's like white colored ones and purple and orange and blue. They have all different colored Foot Clan.
Even though it's very simple when they do that kind of the color swapping and everything, but it does make it feel different, even on a small level. It's better than just everybody looking the same, so it's just a wave of endless. It's like it just gets mind numbing if it's just the same color. So even that little bit helps a lot. So
sorry. Okay.
That reminds me of like one of my favorite side-scrolling beat 'em ups, other than I know people love Turtles in Time. Mine was actually Maximum Carnage, which was based off the comic strip and the comic story actually, and it had the red cartridge. You put it in, you played Spider-Man, and like you could side-scroll beat 'em up, and then you had to climb the wall, and then you battled Doppelganger and Shriek and Carrion and all these other people, and then eventually you get to be Venom. And it was really fun, but they color swap. Like you had like basically there's like maybe 5 villains, and they just color swap the clothes, and that's about it. That's the only difference in names, because the names will pop up on the screen.
I hate
But
I hate boss runs. I really wish they'd stop boss runs in these games. You know, where you like fight all the bosses all in a row at the end of the game. Ugh,
well, basically that's what that Cuphead was supposed to be, just nothing but boss battles repeatedly, and then they actually peppered some stuff in. But thank God they don't do that and some, not all the games, but you do see it happen occasionally. But I do you any of you have like like especially from that era, like me, like my go-to comic book video game from that, and I love this game for its weirdness. It's X-Men 2 Clone Wars. And the music was done by Kurt Harland, who he worked. He was in the band or group Information Society. I want to know what you're thinking. There's some things you can't hide. That he was in that group. I love Information Society. So that right there, and the game starts out. You put the game in, Sega logo comes up, and then no, actually no, Sega logo, I believe, but it drops you in as a random character. As one of the random characters. And so you got to fight through the first level. At the end of the first level, you bust through this ice wall, and then like the credits roll. And so it's a cold opening. The credits roll, then you get to choose your character. You know, like Cyclops, Wolverine, Gambit, Beast, Psylocke, and Nightcrawler.
Psylocke.
And Psylocke, I mean, she got the sword and everything, and she looks beautiful, like in the 16-bit animation. And the music's great throughout the game. This plot is you battle the Phalanx, which is basically the Borg, and they've taken over. And like you battle Apocalypse, you go to the Savage Land, and you go to space, and you go to this temple in Central America, and it's great. It's really fun. Eventually, you can unlock Magneto, so you can play as Magneto, cool. And like which is because you go to Avalon, which is his orbital base, and he's been manipulated to thinking like you're the enemy and this and that. So eventually he comes and joins your side, which is fun. It's like so how many games do you know drop you in as a random character, then you get to choose your character, then after a certain point you unlock another character. That's so really cool. Yeah, it's looks great. The music is great. You battle a sentinel you go inside of a Master Mold Sentinel, you defeat it. But because you defeated it, it had a self-destruct, so the entire place is blowing up. So the screen is like shaking, and it's red, and there's explosions. So it's like you got to escape, and there's like a time limit, so you feel like the pressure. My brother, as a child, nearly had a heart attack because the pressure from this game. He's like, I can't do it. I can't. He threw the controller down. He covered his head and like he's trying to hide from the game. It was hilarious. But he figured out if you play Beast, and you ground pound the ground as soon as you come out of the Sentinel, the screen stops shaking. It still has like the red flashing lights and explosions, but it stops shaking.
Be a bug. Must be a bit of a bug.
It might be, but it was just funny to see that happen. It's like the ground. It's like who had thought to do that? Maybe the developers, but I just love that game.
I'm just having a look at some of the screenshots from the game. They've got that guy who looks like a wizard in it. What's his name? Exodus? No.
Yeah, Exodus. Yeah, with the purple kind of skin.
Yeah, the artwork looks really nice. I'm gonna have to check this out. It's really
good. There's a lot of enemy variations. While you're on Avalon, you're like it's of course a side scroller, but on Avalon because you're in space, you see the Earth and everything. But there's a guy in the background. He's got like this like kind of hover harness that's got like a gun, like guns on it, and you'll see a crosshair like come. If you're not behind like some kind of block or wall or whatever, he'll actually take shots at you, like lock on, target, and then fire at you. So if you don't move, so you have to worry about enemies in front of you and behind you, and like on the side scroll part. But you have to worry about a guy in the background taking shots at you. So it's like pretty clever. It's like not too extreme challenging. It's not like the first X-Men game was not that fun. But the same people that made it, but it was not as fun for me because it was like. The game, you had to reset it while battling Mojo. The game didn't tell you to reset it. You get to an end of a certain point, you had to reset the game to continue on because it's like one of those like kind of early. This is before the put your like the Metal Gear Solid put your controller in a different port kind of thing to continue on. But yeah, X-Men 2 Clone Wars, I love it.
Yeah, X-Men really is really open for the whole gaming genre, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, Capcom, like, I don't know. apparently they're releasing Uncanny Marvel versus Capcom Infinity. This is a rumor, so it's going around 4chan and a lot of other things. And they're going to include, because they didn't put the X-Men in it because Marvel is still having that ongoing thing with Fox.
Yeah.
But this time apparently they're putting Psylocke, Colossus, Captain Commando, and a bunch of other characters in it, and it's going to be all redone from the top down. That's what they're saying. I don't know. Apparently, they were going to unveil it at the Comic Con at the moment, the San Diego one?
San Diego Comic Con, yeah. So.
Yep. It's happening right now.
Yeah. Why aren't you guys there?
Because I actually have a wife.
Still like over 1,000 miles, and I'm on that half of the country too.
It's 3,000 miles away. There really are no connecting flights to San Diego. The tickets are like $100 if you can get them. Lines are too long. Every place within walking distance is going to have too many people. Getting a cab will be a nightmare. And yeah, the smell and the disease. I'm not kidding. You got a lot of international people. Hell, I mean, they had a problem. Couple.
It's not even international. It's just people so close to.
Oh no, you got people coming from international to go there though. That's my thing. It's like, have you had all your shots lately? International people. But,
they're probably pretty rich though if they're flying to America just to go to a Comic-Con.
I've been around some so-called rich people. They don't.
Yeah.
Some people have that kind of that idea of, I'm so rich I don't have to do anything, including bathe or put deodorant on. So, yeah, I'd work security around some people that were former state senators, and they had like basically mansions. And I'm thinking, like, wow, they're going to be like all hoity-toity and like, but they were the nastiest people. So I don't know what the deal is, but yeah. So I'm not, I wouldn't, even if I got a free ticket, I would sell it. If I got a free ticket to San Diego Comic Con, I'd sell it.
I would check it out if it were easier. I would definitely go to like a smaller Comic Con too. That was more oriented towards just comics and not like trailers.
Comic-Cons are good.
Yeah, because I've been watching some of the footage from SDCC, and it's a lot of like standing in lines and just stuff that isn't even comic book related. Like there was an Adobe display. They were just like looking at an Adobe software program, and there was what was it for Snowden? They showed the trailer for Snowden. So it's just like, what the heck? I mean, it would be cool to see like the Aquaman trailer or something like that, but it's not even comic book related. I don't think it should be there.
Yeah, a lot of people have had that problem. It seems more like to push movies more than it is to actually do, what do you call it? Comic books. It's like we have the Supernova here, and at one point it was called Supernova Comic Convention, I think, but it resembled very little of a comic book convention because it had mostly movie stars and all that, and then they just called it the pop culture. But even then, it's like the guy makes way too much money off it too. Anyway, off the subject a little bit there. So what's your favorite comic book game?
Well, I've already said mine with X-Men 2 Clone Wars. So, what about you, DC?
I guess Turtles in Time. I haven't played a ton of comic book games, to be honest. I mostly play like strategy games, like Civilization or Age of Empires, Heroes of Might and Magic.
I get that vibe from you.
From
you. More of a strategy person. Gonna make my tanks. Sorry, man. Just teasing.
Well, for me, I really enjoy. Like, what about you, Hardcpy? What's your favorite?
Oh, okay. Well, all the Marvel vs. Capcom games, but Batman Returns on the Super Nintendo, the second best Konami beat 'em up. If you've never played it, I highly recommend it.
I played it years ago. It was I found it fun, but it reminded me of the because I played it, of course, after the game had been out a while. I played it around the same time I played Batman Forever, which was that was a terrible. I know it's based off the movie, but still, still related. Comic book movie, video game, it's still related. But yeah, that Batman Returns game, It was
So
I.
good.
It was good. I could recognize how good it was. It just was kicking my ass. Same thing with the Batman animated series game. Remember that one?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
it was
Yeah,
that one was too tough. That was too tough. I was like,
that was
oh, I can't
freaking
do
hard.
this. These games are really hard. Like I was one of my favorites, other Spider-Man game, but was the Spider-Man animated series game because of the they had to with the theme and in 16-bit and everything. It was really fun. But when it came to like the Batman games and everything, like Batman has had better games, but he's also had more games. You had the Batman Vengeance. I don't know if you guys played that one. It was a
I didn't play
PS2
it,
game.
but I've ordered it for my GameCube. GameCube's better.
Well,
Sorry.
it was fun. It was really fun. I like the style because it was the Bruce Timm style. But I made a mistake getting Batman Rise of Sin Tzu, which is like the sequel game, and it was like with character design by Jim Lee. I should have known better. That's the only thing. That's when they're touting that on the game. It was like, hey, remember Batman Vengeance? Yeah, remember how fun it was? Yeah, forget everything you knew because this is not as fun. It was like stiff. The controls somehow are stiffer, and the camera work. It was all over the place. It was not a fun game.
Yeah, I remember that.
But it happens though.
Sorry. Then they made another game based on the Batman Begins, and that was they say it was more of a movie game than it was a game, if you know what I mean, like a lot of cutscenes and all that.
But that was a good game. That was a good game. The fear meter, the burnout with a tumbler. It was like the burnout games, but with a tumbler. I mean, it was a fun game. I didn't, was it the best? No, of course not. Was it as good as Arkham Asylum? Hell no. But I enjoyed the hell out of it. Same thing with the Spider-Man games on the PS1, up to the PS2. I still say the best comic book. Spider-Man 2, yes, basically.
On the GameCube. Only the GameCube. It's the best
PS2.
version. I'm sorry. I'll fight you.
PS2. I'm the one with the firearms here. I would not make any promises of fighting. I will take that umbrage. I shall duel you, sir. But I don't have a gun. That's your problem, not mine. No,
I
but
seriously.
GameCube,
so.
Game. When you have a tiny little disc for a tiny little box, PS2, baby, PS2. Could you play Blu-rays? Could you play DVDs on your GameCube? No, you couldn't.
I had a DVD player.
PS2 is superior.
It's turned into a console war thread.
That's one of the few times I'll actually do a console war.
Did you have Super Mario Sunshine for your GameCube?
Oh yeah, I love that game.
Oh
God,
God,
a great game. I'm more of a Nintendo guy. Like, I don't have a console, but I generally like Nintendo. Partly because if you're a filthy casual and you come over to someone's house, if they have a Nintendo, you can probably play whatever it is, like Mario Party, Mario Kart, anything like that. You could just play it, but it's not like.
I'm the exact opposite.
Really?
When it comes to all the Nintendo games, like, oh, this is easy, this is fun. I'm like, it's never easy, it's never fun for me. But like
oh man,
like Devil May Cry 2 and 3 and everything. Like I was like, oh, those games are tough. Devil May Cry 3 is the toughest of them all. I'm like, really? I enjoyed it. It was really fun. It was pretty easy, And
the first one's pretty hard. The second one's crap.
The second one's actually you go back and play it again. I've played it again semi recently because I passed 6 months. It's not that bad of a game. It's like, I like the mechanics. It's like they screwed up with the presentation story and some of that stuff, but
everything else.
Kind of the skin of it. But yeah, I was like, you know what? Not the worst possible thing. But I'm not really defending. I'm just saying I didn't find it to be the worst possible thing. But with it, with these games, I mean, like you have when Batman Arkham Asylum came out, it blew me away. I'm not gonna, it's like, what in the world? Gliding around, the visuals, the story.
You don't want to know how many times I played that demo.
Oh God! So I was so pissed that the PS3 got Joker. They got Joker, and they got the when they had the Arkham City, they got the Adam West skin. On the place.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
They got the Adam West skin. And then apparently even for Arkham Knight, the PS4 got the Adam West skin, this Batman 66, because in the Xbox One, which I have Xbox One, so I guess I made the mistake of getting Xbox One, but that's where all my profiles were, and Xbox One's backwards compatible. Still have a ton of Xbox 360 games I could play, playing backwards compatibility and everything, but with Arkham Knight, which, I hate to get so negative so quick, but that right there, that was I hated that game so much because they lied to you, said, oh, the Arkham Knight's a brand new character. No, it's Jason Todd. We know it's Jason Todd. And of course, it's Jason Todd. And then what they did with everybody crapped all over Batman or Arkham Origins. Because, they didn't have Kevin Conroy doing the Batman voice. They didn't have Mark Hamill's doing the Joker. But the game is basically Batman Year 2, the video game. Because plot-wise, it takes place after Batman Year 1, the comic. They have nods to Batman Mask of the Phantasm with Andrea Beaumont. Like, they have a postcard from her. Because, in the movie, she leaves and goes to, like France or Italy or something like that. And it's like, to Bruce Wayne, Gotham City, USA, whatever. And they have like the best version of Bane in any of the games, because Bane is not this kind of dumb, big hulking brute that just runs at you. He's smart. He actually figures out Batman's Bruce Wayne and goes to the Batcave and like basically kills Alfred. Like, he stops Alfred's heart. So Batman's got to jumpstart his heart, and like you battle Deathstroke, and it's actually kind of an interesting battle. Is it that long? No. But in Arkham Knight, you battle Deathstroke while Deathstroke's in a tank, and you beat Deathstroke in a cutscene and throw him in the back of the Batmobile in a cutscene and take him to jail, and then in another cutscene and you put him in a jail cell. That's their way to deal with Deathstroke. So screw them. I wanted to battle in the streets of Gotham. Like, I wanted to destroy his tank. He gets out of the tank. The Batmobile gets disabled, so I can't use it in my fight with Deathstroke. We'll fight Deathstroke one-on-one, rooftop, street to street. I wanted to do that. But of course, here, cutscene.
The problem I had with that game was, I mean, I enjoyed it, and you're right, there seemed to be, they cut off a lot of the battles, but it was just Arkham City, really.
With cars.
Like, they took all the people out of it. Like, it would be more interesting if it was like civilians and all that, and you were Batman and you had to stay in the shadows and like look for the guy without getting seen, instead of just everybody's a villain and you can just beat everybody up. Instead, you couldn't just beat randoms. You could, but then you get your ass kicked by the cops. But you had to find the criminals using shadows and detectives and all that. And there was normal civilians walking around doing their civilian stuff, like Grand Theft Auto, but with Batman and less murdering civilians.
I would actually be more interested in that. I'd actually like to see that happen, because imagine a city, maybe like if you had to make it smaller to allow like all the AI for the civilians. Like, imagine you're flying, like, you're gliding through the city, like, hey, it's Batman, and like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you can, because that would work. I mean, like, it's video game logic, and but certain missions you want to sneak around in the shadows, or maybe take your batarang and take out a light. So, like, the civilian, because if the civilian sees you, the criminal that you're stalking, will hear, hey, it's Batman, and then the criminal will take off running, make it harder for you, or they won't lead you to where you need to go. And then you have to interrogate him. Like, here's a great game, the Punisher game for the PS1.
Which one, though? Because there's actually two.
The one where you, like, the torture sequences where you, like, the power press.
I can't play it anymore. It doesn't work anymore. But when it first came out, I actually got it. And I played the hell out of it. I love it. And I never got the information out of people I wanted, because I'd screw it up and they'd end up as piranha food.
Oh, you would screw it up as a press drill is boring through their face. You screwed it up. I see what you did there.
Just like the Punisher.
It's so good, though. It's such a good game. It's another one I avoided. This is another one I avoided because you only put it on the poster, but I'll look into that one. But I saw it in the stores. I saw the footage for it. The Aquaman game, which is basically like, hey, this is like N64 Superman,
that was
underwater.
Like a straight up clone of Superman 64. They just added water, right? Basically, you just like swim through those same gray buildings and stuff. Like,
Yep.
Superman flies past.
No rings. I don't think there's any rings though. There might be, but
And it's the stupid mid to late '90s Aquaman where he has the hook hand.
The long hair, hook hand, and like that kind of that half metal vest. Oh God, I hated that.
Bad.
I like that Justice League Unlimited version of Aquaman.
But Justice League Unlimited was fine, but when they cut his hand off, I always hated the hook-handed Aquaman.
Yeah, and it was like that in the comics too. It was kind of like wasn't for me.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. It's like, but speaking of Superman 64, I rented that game. I should have known better. I rented the game. This is before YouTube. This is before all this. Even word of mouth. I rented the game from the video station. I borrowed a friend's N64 because I had a PS1. He didn't have a PS1. I had a PS1. He had an N64. So I always swapped for the weekend.
Oh, good thing
so,
swapped.
Yeah, well, it's like I got the bad end of the deal because I was stuck with Superman 64 for the weekend and not my PS1. And it was nightmarish. I was like, oh, God, I hate this game. And then you hear that Lex Luthor laugh. Like, after you get past the rings, you get like 10 seconds to go pick up these cars and get them out of the way so they don't hit civilians. And then you hear that that Lex Luthor laugh. I hated that game. I hated it so much.
And if you do get past the cars, it's just another ring level, right?
Yeah, dude,
it's like 3 levels or 4 levels or something.
Yeah, it's like...
And yeah, it's nothing to it. Like, literally, the game was built for you not to win. It was only made to make you spend money on it.
It's a travesty. It was traumatizing that bad. It was that bad of a game. And I feel bad for the people involved, but I don't know, man. It's like I know they were kind of under the gun. Like, they were like, hey, you have to have this game out by this time. But I would have just like, no, we can't do it. I'd rather put out nothing to put out something so bad it just stinks for oblivion, stinks for all time. But
infamy, hasn't it? It's now part of video game infamy.
Oh God, it's so infamous. But I don't know what's worse. Like I do kind of know what's worse. I do in N64, the 64, in Superman 64 is worse. But that Superman Returns game, that's pretty awful too, man.
I like the idea that you have to protect the city, that you don't have health, but your city does, and you have to protect the city. That's pretty cool. Can you even do how would you do a Superman video game? Because he is pretty overpowered, and so anything you kind of do would like be God mode if you want to think of it. And if you depower him, people are going to complain. It's like, oh, it's not really Superman. Oh, you just depowered him. So
that's why I go with it. I would actually go for a game that looked like, I ain't saying cell shaded, but like the Fleischer Superman, like set it up like because you could probably on modern systems like Blu-ray and all this, that, whatever. If you actually, it's disc based, but you could put the Fleischer serials, which are all public domain. You could put them on the video game disc. And so imagine like a super, like where you don't fly, but you just jump really high and kind of glide downward. Yeah, and you have the X-ray vision, you have super strength, super speed, but maybe you do get like that Superman, like he would get electrocuted and it hurt him. He would take damage and he'd like flinch, and he like, let's say he's Superman, he's not God-Man, that he could take damage, but it takes a lot. So it's like, I would, well, that's not Superman. Superman should be able to pull planets with chains. Like I'd rather have the Fleischer Superman. Like this is this Superman, and then you have the over the top OP Superman where he's battling, the forces of dark side, and this. Because imagine if you had to protect, the city's health or civilians every single time. Like it would just be that game. It would, in that game, where you protect the city. It's basically an escort mission. The game is an entire escort mission.
You're escorting the city. Actually, you got a good point with the first idea. How do you say that? Shelster?
The Fleischer. It's the Fleischer Superman.
The Fleischer, and it could be like God of War, like in that kind of style of fighting, like where you, like the God of War style of game. But not like violent or anything. Not
Have
like
you
super
watched
violent,
these
just like
cartoons from the
the basic-
1940s?
Yeah,
It's like the
but
polar
it's the same-
opposite of God of War.
Oh, okay. But like, maybe you could, I don't know, be a bit platformy, a bit open worldy. I don't know. It's just I think you've got a good idea there. I guess I got to think about it a bit more. But I like the idea, and especially the art style of Fleischer's cartoons, because I recently I'm just watching them all again because I really love them. And there's just like there's a scene in it where he just stands there and the mob boss is thinking he's berating his lackey, but he's actually berating Superman, and Superman just stands there. And you could just feel like this guy's made a huge mistake.
That would be
yeah.
cool, but could you imagine him ripping people's heads off and stuff
Oh,
like
no,
God
he
of
wouldn't
War
do that.
does? Like,
You wouldn't do that. I'm not saying that it would be like God. I'm just saying that style of gameplay where it's fighting.
rated mature adults
But no, he
only.
means button mashing, man. I know you're just taking a piss.
Button mashing, fine.
Like it's like very simplistic battling. It's instead of hooking somebody with chains, you would like leap towards them and then like grab them with your fist and punch them. But you can't really punch the people. Like you can maybe. Like that's one of the problems. It's like with Superman as a character, you can, like if the person, it, and that right there, that's a problem with a Superman game. Like you
just make the civilians like you fly through them or whatever. They don't have, you can't hit them. Well, because how you can have a city of people and you like it would be really hard to not inadvertently hurt anyone, don't you think?
Well,
Wouldn't that be part of the challenge of a Superman game?
Don't hurt it. Don't smear anyone against a building by accident.
Treat it like Infamous, like the Infamous series, like the where it's like don't hurt nobody, and then like you get like you accidentally like wipe out like 20-30 people, and like Superman started being hated by the city. You're like screw it and start vaporizing people.
I mean, I was just thinking you could lead up to injustice that way.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Oh God, imagine if they use the DICE engine. Like where DICE has the destructible buildings and all this and that, and it's like you accidentally fly through a building and like 300 civilians dead, and you're like, you know what? What's the 300 more? Vaporizing everything, turning the metropolis into ashes. Oh God,
it's like, we've got full of ideas here.
But it's like with these games, I mean, they're really fun. But I was looking at, get the Injustice games, but they had that. I know I also was talking about this earlier today as well with somebody. The Lego series, like the Lego Batman games.
Those are really
Lego
good.
Batman 3 Beyond Gotham is the best one of all those Lego games because when you play a Superman. And you have different suits for Superman and everything. But you play a Superman, as soon as you start hovering, the John Williams music starts playing. And when you're flying, you can go like that supersonic, you have like the air, the shockwave behind you, which is great. And like Wonder Woman, you play as Wonder Woman, the 70s Wonder Woman theme, like when you're flying as her. Wonder Woman. It's really fun. And then you got the Danny Elfman music. But they also had the DLC. And this is back when I was actually a fan of the show Arrow, and I've stopped watching it. But it had the Arrow DLC, it had the Man of Steel DLC, which is hilarious. They had the the Arkham Knight, but the Batman, the Dark Knight, and then they had Dark Knight Rises DLC, which is just funny the way they did everything. And the Batman 66 DLC, they did show a lot of love for those series.
Yeah,
for everything.
The Lego games hit the mark all the time because there seem to be a lot of people who love the kind of more campy aspect of the DC universe. The eraser heads and all that stuff, and so they kind of like love there's a million Golden Age and Silver Age supervillains we could shove in this game. Why not? And then like all of a sudden, like you can choose Lex Luthor in his old costume and he's dragging like a bunch of pies along with him, because I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a mission where you had to stop Lex Luthor from stealing all the pies from that old
that'd be fast. 40 cakes, right?
Yeah, 40 cakes. And so I love that. Like the guys who do the Lego games love that kind of aspect of the DC universe. They love the campy and the silver and the golden age. And they love like throwing in jokes. Like as you said, like how much would I love to play a Arkham Asylum game based in the Batman 66 universe.
I would kill for that. Not only that, I'd rather see something. Imagine instead of the Lego style, more maybe cartoony, maybe somewhat. You can do cell shit. I don't care. Like kind of what they did with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but like they kind of look, but instead of the Lego characters, they look less Lego-like. But with the expansive city, like in Lego Batman 2 and 3, and have like the Gotham City from the 66 show. Yeah. And you have the Batmobile, you have the poles and everything. You go around and like there's like a different island, and like one's Metropolis and one's Themyscira and all that kind of stuff or whatever. Like one's Central City, and like pay homage to like all the stuff that came before. Like basically be Super Friends the video game. So imagine like all the characters that didn't show up in Super Friends. Like I wanted so bad. Did that exist? Apache Chief wasn't in Lego Batman 3, was he? Was that a dream I had? I don't think he was. I think it might have been a dream I had.
I think he might have been, actually. You've got to have a dedicated button for Batman to do his Batman 2C dance. You know that, right?
Yeah. It's like... apparently he's a part of the Brickpedia. I don't know if that's a... let's see. That would be hilarious if he actually was a part of the game. I completely forgot.
Well, he's a minifigure. I have the minifigure.
Yeah, Manitou Raven Apache Chief. Yeah, so it's like, and he's in Lego Dimensions. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was in Lego Batman movie series 2, and he was appearance in the Lego Batman movie. So, but yeah, he should have been in there. But I love that stuff. I mean, it's really fun. Black Lightning and everything. You could have Black Lightning and damn it, Black Vulcan team up. They're basically the same character. It's just, I always get confused at times. But
did you see the Harvey Birdman that had Apache Chief on there?
Yes, Apache Chief spilled hot coffee in his lap and he couldn't grow.
He couldn't enlarge.
He couldn't enlarge. So yeah.
That was a good episode.
Do you know there was a Harvey Birdman video game made by Capcom for the PSP, I think?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I knew about that. I saw it, never played it, but I saw it. I knew it existed.
I only know because I'd been watching Harvey Birdman on YouTube. Someone uploaded most of the episodes, and there's like a lot of gameplay from that game too. It looks pretty fun, but no, I hadn't tried it. Did you try it?
I haven't tried it. The guys behind Phoenix Wright were behind it. They did the initial, like it wasn't written by them, but they did all the, because it's based on Phoenix Wright with the courtroom battles and stuff. And the writing's all from I think it's from the team who do the actual series, but it's based on, and I really like God, I just said it. I really like the Phoenix Wright series, so it would have been cool. And I never got a chance to play it because I couldn't find it. I live in Australia where we hardly get anything.
And when you do, it's way too expensive.
Way too expensive, or it's too late and everybody's like moved on.
Well, the one game I kind of wanted to always play, I always saw it on a PS2. Maybe it's on the GameCube as well, but it was the Justice League Heroes game, and it was Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, which was Wally, of course. John Stewart as of course, Green Lantern, and I believe it was Zatanna and Martian Manhunter. Rounded out the team, and it was it was like it wasn't like a straight up beat 'em up. It was almost like I want to say it was a third person adventure game. I only saw screenshots of it. I never looked up gameplay footage.
Like a platformer?
I don't know. I think it's more like story based. Like here's this mission, you do it with these two characters. It's the Justice League, but you never play as all the Justice League at one time. You play like here's Batman and Martian Manhunter, here's Zatanna and Green Lantern, that kind of thing. But it was.
It'd be cool if they did it like the old sports games, or maybe they still do it that way. I don't know, where you'd control the whole team and just switch between players.
On the gridiron.
Yeah, like Madden or like NHL '98 or something is what I remember it from. But you could just switch between team members, so you'd have the whole Justice League or whole Justice Society, or you could do it with the Watchmen or something. Like that'd be pretty cool.
Hmm.
You could
Yeah, I'm
Speaking
looking
of
at
control
it.
the whole team.
Speaking
at
of watching,
IGN
that
review.
reminds me. Oh, go ahead. You're saying something?
I'm just looking at the IGN review of the game. It's got one picture and it doesn't say much else. Anyway, Watchmen. Yes, there was a video game of that. Keep going.
But I played the free one, which was a virtual arcade. You had to go to a website, and website was like an arcade in like 1980, like a 1980s arcade in the Watchmen universe. So you had like little knot top stuff or whatever, and it was an arcade cabinet. It was like a beat 'em up, and you played as the original Night Owl, and you just like beat the hell out of everybody because a side scroller beat 'em up, and it was really fun. And then of course they took it down.
too.
Yeah, Broadshack was in.
Oh.
Was
Yeah,
it
the
in
one
that?
there was like a 3D one with the
Yes.
the newer Night Owl and Rorschach.
Yes,
and
it
that
was
like
the
a
prison,
fighting
the
game.
prison one. Yeah,
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I played a hell of a lot of that.
that was good too. That was, like I only played the demo of that because I didn't.
It looks really repetitive. Was it
Yeah,
not
that's the
so
only
bad?
reason I didn't buy it.
Those scroll along beat 'em ups or whatever you call them, conveyor belt beat 'em ups, can get a bit repetitive.
Even
But
for
what-
the genre, I don't know. Just the gameplay I saw was like the same 5 guys. You beat them up over and over.
No.
And it's too bad there wasn't like a mini game with the comedian assassinate the president.
Or Marilyn Monroe.
Or Marilyn Monroe, there you go. You just do some, go about like doing dirty deeds, don't get caught. But that reminds me of another kind of game tie-in. Even though it's comic book based movie and it was game, the game is closer to the comic. The Scott Pilgrim game with the Anamataguchi music and everything. That game was brutal. I loved it, but it was brutal. It was unforgiving.
I wouldn't say I was a huge fan. I didn't mind it. I like the art style. I like.
Wasn't it the same as the X-Men arcade game?
No, this
Not really,
one,
no.
the
X-Men
Scott
was
Pilgrim
better.
game was more like Super Mario World.
Yeah.
It
With
was
a
that
bit
kind
of
of
beat 'em up
different
section in it.
worlds and warp zones.
Yeah, like I wasn't a huge fan of the movie, to tell the truth. I like the comics better. I didn't mind the game. I didn't think it was brilliant. Yeah.
I just remember it mainly because it was just the art style was on point, the music and everything. But it was tough. It was pretty tough. But I think there's a lot of these games have a learning curve with a lot of that. But it's I remember going through like one of my. I always wanted to play it. I saw ads for it, never got around to it. X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. It was for SNES. It was a Capcom developed game.
Yeah, because Nintendo really wanted one of their Marvel versus Capcoms on the Super Nintendo, but there's no way the Super Nintendo could run those games. So instead, they made that beat 'em up, and the sprites look kind of similar to the Marvel or the Marvel superheroes. I'd never played it because it was one of the last games to be released on the Super Nintendo, and it never came to Australia.
Oh, I got it and I played it, and it's just too tough and not fun because each character. It's kind of like basically it's Mega Man, but instead of Mega Man battling this, Mega Man battling that, and you get to choose which one, you only get like Cyclops has this mission and that's it. Wolverine has this mission and that's it. You can't swap. You can't have Cyclops for this mission, Wolverine for that one. It's just like you have to do this mission as Cyclops, you have to do this mission as Wolverine, you have to do this mission as Psylocke, that kind of thing. And it was not that fun. It was like it's like everybody's like, "Oh, Capcom is great." I'm like, not here, not here at all. So it's like,
they have their moments where they drop the ball, as it were.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like they can't even finally doing some games like the classic stuff, but taking years to get around to it.
Yeah,
but
Mega Man, the new Mega Man coming out finally. 11, is it?
I think so. Yeah, it's like it's so many years, man. It's so many, they should have just had one out already by now, like years ago. But I was looking into, like the little, the portable games and everything like that, and the X-Men on the Game Gear games, and even those like Spider-Man Game Gear and all that stuff. They're bad, but they're nowhere near as bad as I don't know if you guys ever had any of the Tiger Electronics games.
I
Like
had
I had the Batman one and I had the X-Men one, and they're both horrible.
I had the Turtles one.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The tall green thing. Oh, I just got it because I love turtles. Who doesn't love turtles? They're the best.
I used to have a turtle, and then the school principal caught me with it, and really took it from me and released it, and it got run over by a school bus. Yeah, because I took the turtle to school for show and tell. One of those students ratted me out, so the principal took the lunchbox I had the turtle in and took him, released him, and the turtle only could crawl so far, and they got crushed by a school bus. And then I told somebody I wanted to stab the principal. I was like elementary school, so he killed my turtle. I
want to stab the principal.
Good thing that was in the good old days, though. If you said that now, you'd probably
Yeah, I might have been expelled. But he died of a heart attack a couple years later, so fuck him. He killed my turtle. Movies. God took his life.
So, comics and video games, yeah. Good stuff.
Okay, we'll get back to it. Let's go the other way. Video games that got turned into comics. Have you read any?
Fighter.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat.
Yep. I bought a lot of Mortal Kombat. I love Mortal Kombat comics. I even had a character that was very similar to Goro, but he only had 2 arms, not 4.
I have one to beat all of that. The Nintendo Power comics.
Oh, I remember this.
You had the Battletoads one.
What about Atari Force?
Atari Force is okay. I know I had Jose Luis Garcia Lopez doing the artwork.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. That one only lasted so long, and it was never. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez was wasted on Atari Force.
Yeah,
because it's like Atari Force is so bland and generic because there's nothing to the games. I mean, that's the thing. But Battletoads looked great. Then you had the Super Mario comics, the Zelda Link to the Past, the Star Fox, the Metroid comics, the one comics that never got around to, and I will, if I have to do it and it won't be licensed, I promise myself I'm gonna do something very similar to doing a Castlevania comic. I want Castlevania. I wanted that to be a comic so bad, but of course that doesn't exist. But
it's got to be a manga, don't you think?
I don't think so. I've never seen one. I need to look it up.
There's no way it wouldn't be.
But speaking of manga, Darkstalkers, the Udon produced Darkstalkers comics. Oh.
I have a love-hate with Udon. I have a love-hate relationship with Udon.
Really? How so?
Well, okay, so I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a fighting game on the Wii called Capcom versus Tsunakyo. I can't remember.
SNK?
No. There's a Japanese company that did a lot of those kind of power morphing and all that. They did a lot of, and they made a fighting game like Marvel vs. Capcom, except with these characters. You had Kashin, you had Kira. You had, I think, Battle of the Planets. You guys know Battle of the Planets, of course. Anyway, in Japan, the endings for each characters was a little animation. So when they released it in Australia and all that, they decided to replace the animated endings, the Japanese with Udon's art, pseudo anime manga art. And I just why did you do that? And I was being pissed ever since. I don't know. I know it's pathetic. And I do like the Street Fighter Udon comics. I haven't really read much of them because we don't really get them down here that much. But that's my gripe with Udon.
Well, maybe they couldn't license the actual endings, because that's the problem. A lot of that stuff. I found out that there's a lot of those games, and the music, and you think everything's okay. The music is only licensed, and the animation for that region and that region alone, and so they got to change it for some because of legal BS, which sucks. Because I mean, when that happens, it just ruins everything. But like the Street Fighter comics that Udon put out. I love those. They were so much
good.
fun.
I really like them. I do. I have a bunch of them, but that's just my personal.
Oh, I don't blame you for being upset about that. I'd rather have the original. That's the thing. It's I want the original thing uncut. I don't want any variation. Like if you want to give me 2 versions for the price of one, I'm fine with that. But give me the option of having the original.
Yeah, precisely.
But yeah, with that, like, I mean, you had the Street Fighter comics, you had the Mortal Kombat comics.
I have some more comics that were based on video games.
Which
All
ones?
The Star Wars X-Wing comics were based on video games.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They were.
Nice.
I have the whole set of in omnibus form because they were all really excellent. Originally, Star Wars was licensing only for based on the movies, and they were charging more. So in the middle of negotiations, they decided, well, let's license the video games because that would be cheaper than the movies. And so we got the X-Wing comics, and those ran for like 3 years and were also tied into the novels. And they were really, really good. It had great ensembles and like great art. Like the art was always amazing.
Okay, I'll have to check them out. I want to read some more Star Wars. I've got Dark Empire and some of that Darth Vader stuff. I'll have to check that out. I always ran into the Warhammer games.
They're in the new Legends collections. I think the New Republic volumes 2 and 3. Like they collect the whole thing in 2 omnibuses, and it's a really great read because it sort of starts with standalone arcs, but near the end it sort of ties everything together to feed into the novels. But it's a really satisfying story the way it is. It's just everything becomes part of this big political scheme of who's going to take over the Empire after the Emperor's dead, because it's just like a year after he dies in Endor.
Man, someone needs to send these comics to Disney. Maybe they'll write an actual proper sequel.
Yeah, instead of like the dumb Poe Dameron comics, which are such a wasted opportunity.
It's funny because the Poe Dameron comics, when I go to my local comic book shop, there's like 6 to 8 Star Wars books on the shelves. Most of them are pretty depleted, except for Poe Dameron will be like 6 inches thick off the shelf.
They're so boring.
No one cares about them.
No one.
I wanted to because he's an X-Wing pilot, but he's so boring in the way they write them.
And you're right, there is a Castlevania comic called Castlevania Curse of Darkness, but it's not the classic Castlevania. This isn't Castlevania 1, 2, 3, or even 4. This is post Symphony of the Night Castlevania, where everybody has that kind of the what do you call it, the very girly look to them. Like everybody has like the kind of wispy. Everybody looks wispy. Yeah, shoujo look. Yeah, not shonen look, but like a shoujo look, and it does nothing for me. So yeah, it
doesn't.
No, I want the chain whip. I want hearts dropping from candles. I want like somebody whipping a wall and a pork chop coming out of it. I could never have a candle
in that. I could never have a candle in this house. I'm telling you. Put a candle out, and some idiot with a whip. It's gone, and it's a heart, and it's like a heart. It's bleeding everywhere. Thanks. Who's going to clean that up? You, mate?
I'm going to take my cross. I'm going to throw a cross at you, and so it's going to go in a boomerang right back to me and pick it up. And it's made in Australia.
Well, that's where Jesus came from. He came from Australia.
There you go. I'm looking at this, like these, comics, inspired by the video games and everything. And I'm surprised. Like I was actually surprised how good they were, but the quality didn't last. It was the SNK comics. They were
they American.
I know there were American English translations of the Japanese, but they were like at first, like I guess I don't know if they changed artists or editorial or something, because like they make that stuff so quick over there. Here it takes like they're doing like 20 pages a week. Here it takes like 22 pages a month, which is like really pathetic how slow comic artists here in the West are. But they
need locked in the rooms. You need to lock them in rooms.
They need to lock them in rooms, chain them to the desk. You get work done. But yeah, it was like really weird to like to see how like eventually just like kind of faded out. But it reminded me of a comic turned into a video game that most like nobody has played, nobody cares about. Actually, 2 of them now, because the other one just popped in my head now. Danger Girl, the video game, based on the
terrible.
It was like, hey, you like Tomb Raider, right? Yeah. Well, imagine a bad version of Tomb Raider. Yes, they did. They did. And
I'm
the best,
surprised.
it was the book, which has like original sketches by J. Scott Campbell. I think I paid $5 for this game. This was like 10 years ago or something like that. Nobody cared about it then. Nobody cares about it now. But it was like very stiff. Think of like the worst Tomb Raider game ever. And it was like the frame rate was like 10 frames a second. It was just like horrible. It's like watching it's like a flip book. It was like, instead of looking like it was on a digital game, it was like on a flip book. But the other one was Iron Man, Exo Man of War, Heavy Metal.
I heard about this. Is it any good?
It's if you can get past how stiff everybody is, they move like tanks. Exo Man of War and Iron Man, they move like tanks. But it's not a bad game. It's for the time. Clearly, it's dated. I mean, if you're used to the smooth controls of the modern day, it will drive you up the wall. But if you can kind of get used to how the controls handled back then, you're fine. You'll probably enjoy it.
I played Doom on Super Nintendo just fine.
Ooh.
I love that game. I played when that came out because I didn't have a PC at the time. Well, not a PC that could play Doom. So when they released it on the Super Nintendo, I was freaking there. And I got the American cart because this is when they used to import games into Australia. High Tech World, if anyone remembers that. They used to import games, and I bought the red cartridge for the American Super Nintendo. And I still got that cart. To this day, I've still got that red cart.
Still works.
I love that game. Sorry?
It still works, the cart?
Yeah, it still works perfect. So, hey, you forget, everything Nintendo releases is made of Nintendo Indium.
Nintendo Indium. Eternium.
For me, it was Wolfenstein 3D more than Doom.
Okay.
Kind of my first shooter.
I can see that. It's like, you probably drink a bit of wine while you're playing it too, don't you?
It's very classy. You find a chicken dinner on the ground. It's awesome. What was the health of that? It was like a full plate of like mashed potatoes and chicken and stuff. You're like, okay, health.
It's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention Wolfenstein because there's a comic book version of that too.
I believe it. There's really anything that's even moderately popular is going to have a comic book, like RoboCop, Predator, like any movie that does well. Pretty much, like it'll have a comic book.
Waterworld had a comic book.
I believe it.
Oh my god!
Not even
the Kevin Costner movie.
Yep, Kevin Costner. My mate had it, and I read all of them. It was better than the movie. Which I guess is
that's
not
hard, but
no, it's a pretty good comic actually. The art was
oh my
good.
god, you're not kidding! I just looked it up. Look at this. Okay, I'll share this real quick with you. Okay, so let me do this. Here you go.
No, throw it up.
Yeah, here we go. Here is the covers. Like that looks weird, and I'd love to see it. Children of Leviathan, Acclaim Comics. And then this one, it looks like,
wow.
Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky. It's got the mullet. I love it. Oh my god, this is great and terrible all at the same time. Like the artwork's actually pretty solid. It looks like 90s, like 90s appropriate art. A
bit of what's his name? Temple Smith in there, like the way he does this. I think the cover, the one that you showed, where the guys are staring at each other, they look like a bit of Ben Templesmith style.
Yeah, I can see Ben Templesmith art right here, like this kind of deal. Yeah, I could easily see that because, that actually might be Ben Templesmith. I know a lot of these guys have changed.
Kevin Costner's character doesn't look that threatening. He looks like, look, this is a knife, and the guys go, yeah, cool, it's a knife.
But he looks, his features, his head's way too big. He's like way too big.
That's not a knife.
That art is trash, dude.
Oh.
I'm gonna say it right now. That was ugly.
Yeah, it's ugly. But it's
That's
actually
the cover.
Wait, I'm confused. I thought Larry was supposed to hate things and DC was supposed to like them.
Yeah.
See,
you never know.
Likes anything.
I guess I'm at the end of the day, I'm a hipster. And I'm like, I like what people hate, and I hate what people like. So who knows?
Like before they're cool.
Or like I hate like Guardians of the Galaxy. I hated it when the day it came out, and I lied to a friend of mine and said I loved it after like about a year ago or 6 months ago or something like that. And he believed me, and I'm like, deep down, I had to swallow that hate. And so, no, it's like, I hate things way, way before they're cool. But, with these games, I mean, like, is there any, okay, here's the thing. Is there any game you think should have a comic but doesn't? And I could,
Oh, I so want a Marvel versus Capcom comic book. Not a proper comic book with proper writers from well, not nowadays, but when they used to be good, but an actual proper Rai and Ken and Cyclops and all that meeting up and having adventures. A proper comic book.
I mean, I want StarCraft to have comics again. I mean, they are getting them, but I really want them to continue the series from the 2010s.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't even know StarCraft had a comic series, but I played Brood War a lot when I was a kid and read some of the novels. I didn't realize they'd actually made a comic book. It was pretty good.
I loved the trade. It was by Simon Furman, who does Transformers comics and had really good art by Fernando Delaccio. And it was a very dark storyline like StarCraft because, everyone dies in StarCraft.
Yeah, it's dark.
But I really wish they would continue that because it was like this band of mercenaries who get caught up in politics between the original game and StarCraft 2. And but we're getting new ones by Jodie Hauser, who's fine, but she's just kind of middle of the road. I want someone really good.
Okay. The novels were pretty good. I read, was it Wings of Liberty was the first one? And then they did a whole series. It was based on the older game. So, yeah, that'd make a good comic.
Did you build more pylons? Sorry.
Oh, you got to build
That's
pylons.
The Protoss.
Usually supply depots.
Yeah. I was all about the hives and the, what are they called? The overlords. I built those overlords.
My brother used to play so many of that.
Oh, yeah. I love that creep.
Zerg was probably the best overall, I would say. But for me, I liked playing Terran more.
I like both of them equally. Everyone wanted to play Terran in my group, so I always played Zerg.
Oh, yeah, I'd probably do that too. I liked micro over macro, so Zerg's more like just swarm them, whereas you had a lot of special skills you could use as Terrans, like with your science vessels and ghosts and stuff.
Oh, yeah. And the Protoss are even worse about that.
Yeah, the Protoss, I don't know. I just EMP them, and it's like, well, at least half their health is gone, so GG.
Welcome to the StarCraft thread.
RTS
no, for real,
take
though,
over the game.
Half their health is freaking shields, so you just EMP them, and all their shields are gone, 100% gone, so they're just boned. I don't know. I always thought Protoss was really beatable if you were able to tech up at all.
I'd have to look into that. I don't remember researching EMP for Zerg, if they have any.
No, it's a Terran skill on Science Vessel. At least in StarCraft Brood War. For Zergs, you'd probably just use that Plague that the Defilers have. That's good on any mechanical unit. That'd really mess up Dragoons or Carriers or something.
Yeah, that right there, it's like you're talking. It's almost like talking quantum physics. Because I'm like, oh, what? I've never played any of these.
I understand most of that. I understand. Only because my mates were right into it. He wanted to become a professional StarCraft player.
Move to Korea.
Oh, let's say
he wanted to do all that.
He's out of luck.
No, he wanted to do that too. He wanted to move to Korea. He wanted to be professional. I think he messed up his arm or something because he played it so much. Because apparently you can get that, your what do you call it?
Purple tunnel.
Yeah, and all that stuff. So I don't think he did it in the end.
That's overdoing it. I never really would even look up strats or anything too much. I just, I think strategy games are really fun, whether they're turn-based or real-time.
What's your favorite? I love Dawn of War. I was always the original first Dawn of War. I love
Warhammer.
Yeah, the Warhammer Dawn of War.
Oh yeah, those are good. Favorites. Pretty tough.
Do they have any tie-in media?
Sorry?
For Warhammer?
Yeah, does Warhammer have any novels or comics?
I know it has a couple of comics. I know it does have novels. There's freaking piles of them because I actually picked one up and read it. They're not bad. I don't know about comics, to tell the truth. 4chan always goes on about it. I think there might be.
There is
Which board on 4chan?
That's a good question.
We got Warhammer 40k, Exterminatus. We got Warhammer 40k, Wheel of Iron. So yeah, they got So they got at least two series. Actually, kind of look pretty good art wise. Yeah,
Okay.
I want to check it out.
The Emperor. Praise the Emperor.
Oh God, you know, I want the comic I want, and let me actually check and see if this actually exists. I don't want to say I want it and not exist. Let's see. Actually, we say I want it and it already exists. No, it doesn't. I want the comic book version of Samurai Zombie Nation. I don't know if you've ever seen that game.
No,
it was an NES game where it's basically an asteroid crashes in the desert and starts taking over the Earth, and something crashes in the desert. It's called Dark Sea, D-A-R-K, or D-A-R-C-S-E-E-D. It's basically, I guess, Dark Side. And then it starts taking over, and a floating head that's the literal head of the samurai.
Oh, that
weird looking. Let me just share it real quick. Here's the
Justin Jontron did a video on that.
Yes. Here is the box art for the game, and here's like it's shooting its eyeballs and parts of its lungs, and it makes no sense. It's no sense at all. But I'd love to see a comic version of it.
Who? Writer.
There we go.
Writer. Who do you think should do it? Who do you think should write it?
I would actually like to see not Warren Ellis. Who would I like to see?
Gail Simone. She writes everything.
Don't you dare.
Put her on every book.
Dare.
Mark Waid.
Yeah, Mark Waid. Even better.
Story.
You should put Bendis on it, even though I like him.
Oh God,
Brett Morrison.
I was gonna say who's a writer, who's an artist everybody hates.
Grant Morrison's going to be doing a Green Lantern book, right?
I heard it.
I'm actually kind of interested in it, even though I hate Morrison.
I love him and hate him. It just depends on his book.
Yes, I'm with you there. I didn't like his Superman.
You did, or did
I just hate him.
I didn't like his Superman.
Like
All-Star Superman, I loved, but he's
you're talking about his action comics for the New 52?
Yeah, I didn't like those.
That was weird as heck.
He took over after George Perez, or what?
No, he was the first one. He launched.
No, there was two books at the same time. There was the Superman, and then there was Action Comics. Action Comics was George Perez, and the Superman, that's the one where he had the blue jeans and the T-shirt, and he had like the Golden Age powers. And
you sure?
Everybody had googly eyes. Yeah, George Perez did the artwork for the Action Comics one. That's when he had the armor. But the Superman book was Superman was the
other way
armor.
around?
Superman was the armor. Action Comics was the T-shirt.
He had it flipped.
Yeah. Action was the Morrison. I was pretty sure I knew that was.
But George Perez wrote and drew Superman in the New 52 initially until DC basically pissed him off and he left. So.
Well, no, it was Morrison who pissed him off because Morrison refused to get scripts in on time because he didn't want to be edited.
That sucks.
And that screwed over everyone else who wanted to write Superman. So Perez was like, I'm writing and drawing. I need time. So he just left.
That blows, man. Because I have that first issue of the George Perez one, but I didn't keep up with it.
George Perez is a class act.
No, I met him one time, and I have a horrible story. I have a horrible experience. So I can still enjoy his artwork, but I'm not a fan of the person itself. So
I met him. He came to Australia and got some stuff signed and everything, and he was a really cool guy.
See,
what did Perez do?
Well, for me, what Perez did to me is like if you're at a convention and I'm about to leave, I was only able to come for that Friday. I'm about to leave. I'm on my way out the door. I was hunting down Perez. They screwed up multiple times convention. Oh, he's gonna be over here. He wasn't there. They changed his table. Go where his new table is. Oh, he's at a panel. and then go to after the panel, he disappears for a while. Didn't go back to his table. None of that. Finally, before I'm about to leave, I'm like, I got to go because it's a 3-hour drive to get back home. And he's off to the side, still at the convention, in the convention center itself, working like head down like he's drawing something. And there's somebody from the convention, I guess a handler. Miss Perez, can I just get your signature real quick? And he looks at me, then looks at the handler, says something to the handler, like, low enough voice where I couldn't hear because the roar of the people at the convention hall. And handler kind of walks like maybe 3 feet towards me. Miss Perez is done signing for the day. You can come back tomorrow. I was like, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm about to leave right now. It says Mr. I guess George Perez couldn't hear me over the roar or whatever. He tells, and George is like, well, you can come back tomorrow. I says, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm about to leave now. I'm going to go. I just want to get a signature. That's all. Because I had Marv Wolfman sign my Christ on Infinite Earths. So I was like, oh, cool. That'd be get Marv Wolfman and George Perez. That'd be kind of cool. And like, this ain't the best situation, but I'd like to go ahead and get it signed because you never know. The dude might die. And I'm not saying for collector's reasons, but just so I could say I got it signed by both of them and keep it for myself. And he's like, no, he does like that kind of that no face, like they kind of squints his, skin squishes up his face, like no. And he's like, oh, you have to try it back next year. I'm like, fuck you, George Perez. And I said loud, and I gave him the finger too. And then I walked off. I was like, fuck him, asshole. And then he's like, oh, I won't go to any state that voted for Trump. I'm like, oh, fuck off then. Nobody wants your ass.
He did go to Texas though. Like,
see, hypocrite. Fucking can't even stand
in February.
That's what I'm saying.
Only 4 months after the election.
I thought it was awesome.
Like, seriously, how in the world are you going to make a living if you don't go to cons in states that voted against your preferred candidate?
Yeah. I still think he's cool, though. I don't care.
Anyway, let's get back to the subject.
That reminds me of the Green Lantern talk. Anybody remember the Green Lantern Rise of the Manhunters game? Based off of the semi-based off of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, that was like
was it better than the movie?
I played a little bit of it. No, it's not. It's just as bad.
Oh, that's disappointing.
It's similar to it's a button masher, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of what you said about God of War, except for light constructs.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of. It's kind of like what they did with those. Like, do you remember that Thor game based off the movie? It's basically that, but with Green Lantern.
There was a Captain America video game too. Based
that
on
one was more like Arkham Asylum, though. That one's very much.
Yeah, but it never came out on anything I owned, so I didn't get to play it. And I would like to play it because I want to play Captain America.
Yeah, so, I don't blame you because that's good stuff. But yeah, it's like these. I mean, with these games, with these comics and everything, it's like I was thinking right now, like after I recently read X-Men of War. Sorry, not X-Men or Bloodshot. The first volume of Bloodshot. That is a video game movie waiting to happen. It's like he can only take so much damage. EMPs are his weakness. So it's like, oh, wow, this is a video game in the making. He's a soldier and all this and that. And it's like, that would be a great game. I could see that happening. Like, make it like a third person game. Maybe actually where you can go from third to first person, kind of like how you do in Fallout a little bit. Like if you want to go use third person so you can peek over corners right when you're like ducking and crouching. But I think that'd be really fun. Like, I mean, anybody else have any ideas for like a comic book you like to see a video game as?
Slightly off the subject. Did anyone play Origins Wolverine?
Yes, I did. That is better than the movie. That is so much better than the movie. It's like
so much fun. Except for the freaking bit where you have to go through the city and find what's his name, Gambit. That was just irritating. But the rest of it was so much fun. You felt like Wolverine. And like when he got damaged, like huge chunks of him and you see his skeleton and stuff, which is freaking cool. But it was a really good game, and I played it so much.
You know that game's rare now. That you can't find that game.
Oh, okay. I've just got it downloaded on the PC.
Yeah, it is like $50-$60 if you can. That's like a loose copy. Last time I checked, and with the box is like $100+. So it's like holy crap. Because I got the the Adamantium Rage edition or something. It's like, I guess it's more violent or had some DLC content or something. But yeah, it was like the game was really good. It was like a really good game, surprisingly.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised. I thought, oh, it's probably, all right. And I like being Wolverine, so I thought I'd give it a go. And I was finished it 6 hours later. It's like, man, that game was good. You slice people's heads off, and the robots were a little annoying.
Yeah.
But generally, and you fought a Sentinel.
Yes, you fought the Sentinel, and you had to make it stomp on the electrical panels, and then you were in space falling through the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's insane. It was great, though. It was so good.
Yeah, the only problem was it ended at the best part. Like, you saw that cutscene at the end where he's in the future. And it's like, oh, why couldn't you keep going? I want to be future Wolverine. And, But no, it just ended. I guess they were going to do a sequel, but I think EA... who was the company behind it? Shit, I'm going to have to look it up. But I think they got disbanded on everything or something, because EA, that's what they do.
Well, no, what happened is like, that was an Activision game. That was Ravensoft Activision.
Yes, Ravensoft.
Activision, which Ravensoft was a part of Activision. Activision put out all the Spider-Man games, all the great ones. They put out all the X-Men games. And then what happened, the whole Disney deal. So when the Disney deal happened, Disney, the rights were bought up by EA, the video game rights. So that means they couldn't support or sell digitally any more of the old Activision games. So they were stuck. So,
okay,
so that's why you don't get any, and EA sucks in general. So for every Titanfall 2, you get Battlefront 2. Yes.
I love Titanfall 2. I love that.
No,
game.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like, for every Battlefront 2, which is an amazing game, you get Star Wars Battlefront 2, the upcoming Battlefield 5, microtransactions, loot boxes, buggy games, it's just, no excuse.
They ruined the Command and Conquer series too.
They made it mobile, right?
Westwood Studios.
They destroy everything.
Has anyone read the Sonic comics?
Yes, because I'm reading. My brother was such a fan. He took my dad's coin collection, not like rare coins, but it's like nickels, dimes, pennies, quarters, all that, and put coins in an envelope with the coupon for the comics for like, he wanted this comic, and put coins in and mailed it. And not only did he send him the comics, he put on the little thing, he sent him extra and like, please don't send coins. It's like, here you go, kid, please don't. So he didn't do coins again. But those comics were really fun, and the best ones of all those, like, kind of the what do you call it, the Sega games and everything, was the Nights in a Dream comic based off the video game.
I read that. Was it any good?
It was great, and here's a scary thing. You know who wrote it? Take a guess. Take a wild guess, y'all. Give you a hint. The guy is hated.
Conway.
Close. He is hated. He's a comic writer who's hated.
The King guy? What's his name? Matt King?
Tom King? No.
Tom King.
He was still killing people with Predator drones or something. No.
Yeah, Tom King's only been around since like 2003 in comics.
Yeah, so
okay.
he's like, it's a CIA
I
operation.
didn't think he was around till like 2013.
Yeah, that's right. It's even more recent, huh? Because Vision was like 2016.
Yeah, and
Was
his
it
first
Cricket?
comic I thought was Grayson, which was 2014.
Is that Omega Man or what?
Omega Man was also 2014.
Yeah.
Well, the writer of Nights in a Dreams is none other than Dan Slott.
Oh.
No!
Yeah, and it was so good, though. That's what's so messed up. It's like Dan Slott did Nights in a Dreams, and he also did the Batman, was Arkham Asylum Living Hell, was a miniseries. That's what introduced Aaron Cash, who was in the Arkham games, the cop, the Arkham guard missing the hand. And it set up kind of like the tone of the Arkham Asylum stuff. That's Dan Slott before he became Dan Slott, the Marvel writer. and he started being hated, and it's like, hey, how people hate this guy? Let's give him Fantastic Four and Iron Man.
That's what Marvel does.
That's super messed up because Slott has said that he's a slow writer and he can only write 18 issues a year. Like, what are they thinking?
Unless they're making Fantastic Four quarterly, which would make sense. When you think about it, make a book quarterly. It's called the Fantastic Four, so we have 4 issues a year. Oh God, was there ever a Fantastic Four game?
Yeah.
I don't think so. They did show up in the Spider-Man animated series game. There's you pick up these power-ups, and you could use them. Like if you're getting your ass kicked, you can actually use one of these icons, and you have like Firestar show up and vaporize all enemies on the screen, or the Fantastic Four show up and just kick everybody's ass. Like you had Morbius fly by, like you just zoom in through the sky, and so it's kick ass. So it's basically clear to screen power up. But oh my God, this is the kind of quality stuff we're getting from Marvel. But the games or whatever. But DC needs to up their game. Like I want a badass Wonder Woman game. I want basically based off the comics. Not God of War.
Do they still do tie-in games to movies?
That's where they're going to go. With Wonder Woman, they're going to have it's going to be a button masher God of War style game. We know that even though we don't want that, that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be probably set, if they do a game, it'll be set like in the World War One situation, and it'll be like Captain America. Because really, I know this is probably going to get me a lot of enemies, but Wonder Woman is just Captain America. The movie is pretty much Captain America with boobs.
Done right.
It is.
It's Captain America.
Right.
It's way better than Captain America, though.
That's what I'm saying. It's like where Captain America...
Yeah, the ending's what? But the Captain America ending is what, too?
Yeah. But the difference is, that Captain America... The way Captain America ends, the only reason... Captain America, the only reason that movie existed is people...
Captain America?
Well, because they had to use... Because Captain America has Captain America, we just can't have him show up, in the Avengers movie. We got to have, this... everybody's like, this is, slightly off topic, but there was actually this on topic as well. Everybody's like, well, DC should have done what Marvel did with all the movie tie-ins. No, Marvel had to do that. No one gave a damn who Iron Man was, Captain America, Thor, rest of them. They didn't care until they had to make people care about it. You could draw the Superman logo in the desert of the Sahara to a Bedouin, and they could probably know who that is. They'd know who that is.
You go to any town in America, half the kids are wearing Captain America and Spider-Man t-shirts.
But the logo, the Superman logo, is recognizable. That's what I'm saying. They're wearing those t-shirts. Here's the problem. They're wearing those t-shirts because they're $7 a piece because they cost 10 cents to make in a third world country. So, that's the only reason they're wearing those shirts.
No, I think they really like Captain America. I don't like the Captain America movies except for the second one, but I think Captain America is a really appealing character because he's sincere in an age of cynicism. I mean, he's what Superman should be right now, but Superman's mishandled.
Yeah, I don't like it. I like what Captain America can be, but then you get the second movie and then so on and so forth. It's that kind of Captain America, the idea of he'll fall on a grenade for somebody. I'm like, dude, you should just pick the grenade up and throw it away. Like the idea of that was stupid. It's he's stupid enough. I'm willing to die for something. No, pick the grenade up and throw it.
Pieces of blown up Captain America would fly into the other soldiers too. It's not like jumping on a grenade will stop the explosion completely.
Yeah, the shrapnel,
it's a very noble idea, but you're right. He should have just picked it up and thrown it.
But that would show how smart he is. But that's it's that he's willing to die for what he believes in. That kind of Wonder Woman. She not only is Gal Gadot's charming as all hell, but the idea of she's been training for war, but she doesn't seek violence first and foremost. No. She isn't yes, she wants to go take out Ares, but that's the Lord of War, the God of War. She wants to stop him. That's her whole point. But she isn't I'm gonna cut your arm off for you touched me, this, that, whatever. She's the kind of the babe in the woods, the fish out of water. And also the whole part where she's walking through London, like I shouldn't have to cover up. Like, what's the problem with this? I'm like, yes, exactly. And
then she sees a baby, which I thought was a really nice touch. I didn't think they would include.
Like, oh, baby! Like that was adorable.
She's never seen one before.
Because there's none on on Paradise Island on Themyscira, and then the ice cream, and she's like, it was like, oh, you should be so proud. Like that right there, just that right, and then cut to the horrors of war. It's like the juxtaposition. But it's like that's how life is. That is really how life is. Like Captain America, as much as I enjoyed it, was just, hey, by war. It had some of that, but they didn't have the balls to go into, like, they didn't show like when the POW camp, like how horrible the conditions could be, and everything was kind of sanitized and safe. And then
it was a very safe movie.
But you look at Rocketeer. Rocketeer.
Oh, I love that film.
It's so good, and that was a horrible game because I have that on the NES. That was, and that's based off a comic book and everything. But the game was nightmarish, and I dodged a bullet by not getting the SNES version, which is just as bad because the SNES version, you have to, instead of flying around rings, you have to fly a circuit. You have to fly a circuit in your plane, then get the jetpack, then fly the circuit with the jetpack, then battle guys in the hangar. That game is horrible. No, thank you. Never. I will never buy that.
You know, Capcom released a Rocketeer style game called, I think, The Void, where it's not Rocketeer, but you have a jetpack.
Yes, I had that game. The only reason I bought the game was because of the music. Because of Bear McCreary, who did the music for Battlestar Galactica, and I like Rocketeer, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to give this a shot. The game was horrible, so it was.
I didn't mind it too much.
I wish it was so much better. It was so bad. It was like, oh, why? Why did you do this, people? It's like they don't want you to have fun. It's like, give me the rocket pack, give it to me now. Don't dick around. But the Avengers thing, like the whole DC, they had to lead up to it. But there was an Avengers game that was canceled. It was going to be basically Overwatch. But they had Skrulls, they had the helicopter. You get to play as Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, or Hulk, and so you get to see Hulk's hands. So it's kind of like, I guess it's like Overwatch, Left 4 Dead a little bit because there's 4 characters. But it would have been great. And the alpha footage looks so good. I was like, finish this game.
We're never going to see that, are we? We're never going to see Avengers or any. Actually, we haven't seen very many tie-in video games for the Marvel, other than that Iron Man and that Captain America game. But there is a
Thor game. There was a Thor game as well.
Yeah, but we haven't seen an Avengers game. You think that'd be, just prime for a video game, even a terrible one?
Wasn't there a Champions game or something where they're fighting Thanos? I saw some ads for that. Pretty sure there's a Champions game right now.
I thought they'd do a AAA release or something for that kind of thing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, well. But yeah. No, the Sonic comics.
Well, they mishandle all.
Sorry?
Well, they mishandle all that stuff. I mean, you'd think the comics would be tied into the movies too, but clearly not. So Marvel just doesn't know how to handle it.
But the problem with that is, if you tie it into the movies, you have to say you have to spin your wheels because you couldn't really do anything grand because it's like, it wouldn't tie into the movies. The movies would wag the tail of the comics.
Yeah, but if you're doing grand stuff like Secret Empire, is that a good thing?
Well, I'm talking about in general terms. It's like what they've been doing lately. It's like, so like if they were to tie into Infinity War or whatever. So they had already done that in the comics previously. So just rehash that in comics again. So like, maybe that would work, but then you'd have to, like, what could you do afterwards? You'd have to clear that with Feige and the rest of the, the story people, and like, so you don't step on any toes, or it's like that. That's a problem. It's like this. It's comic.
I think you do an offshoot, like you've got the 616 universe, the Ultimate Universe. Maybe you can have an MCU comic, what you call it, line, and just have it based around in the comics universe. It doesn't have to be exactly like it, but it could be. Maybe you could get characters they haven't introduced yet and put them in the comics, like maybe I don't know, what's the character they haven't introduced? She-Hulk. You could do a She-Hulk comic with She-Hulk in the MCU, and she's like, you know, doing her thing, and it could be within. Maybe she was fighting the Chitara in her city or something like that. Something like that. I mean, it's not perfect. It's just a thought.
Yeah, that right there. I mean, it could work, but my concern is like just like with anything, like when they do those, like the comic book tie-ins to the video games, like they've been doing the Injustice comics that tie into the games. So they do this in the comic, and then the game comes out and contradicts everything that the people have been reading. Well, that's just how it goes. It's like it kind of feels like it just negated. It's like rebooting or like retconning everything that you've read up to, and so like, what's the point of continuing reading?
Because that's the games contradict the comics.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, so they in the comics, they're up to because they're doing, I think, Injustice. You know, they're covering the Injustice 2 stuff.
Yeah, they had like 100 first year, and then they're like up to 60 second year.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, you know, say the comic, you know, like keeps on going, and say the third game contradicts, you know, the comics. I'm just saying it as an example. I'm not saying it has, but I'm saying like that kind of thing happens.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's like the editorial should not let that happen. But like when you're dealing with a movie, like $1 billion industry, and it's like, I'm not saying like you'd get, you know, you piss people off in the movies, of course not. I mean, but somebody comes in and reading the comic, and like this is nothing. Like, you know, even when it's tied in directly, at the end of the day, it's like people go to the movies and see actors and see everything live action. Like, and unless you lowered that price, that's the biggest thing. We could talk about quality of content, but that price is the biggest problem. Like, you can have the best written, best illustrated comic, but if it's $5 an issue, you ain't gonna get no rando off the street. You're like, no, put it back on the shelf and then walk out of the shop, not even bother looking at anything else. They could be, you know, like, oh, that means they're soft, and they get offended. I'd be offended too if I came in. It's like, oh, here's my comic. I'm like, you want that much for it? For that little? No way! And then just walk out.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I think the MCU comics, they should drop the price of them and maybe aim them at the younger audience, because we know the younger audience is going to see the Marvel comic books. I mean, the Marvel films and all that. And as my sister's kids love all those films, they don't care about the comics that much, but they love the films. So if you want to get a comic tie-in, you got to aim it at the younger crowd. I honestly think, and as you say, drop the price point. And Marvel can afford to drop the price point. I mean, if they can afford all the damage that's done to themselves at the moment, I think they can afford to drop the price point. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like.
I mean, DC is scooting really hard for the younger market with their Zoom and Ink stuff, which they had a big SDCC announcement about. They're going for the book market, which I think is probably smart, because comic stores aren't really a great kid-friendly place.
Yeah, I punch kids as they come in the comic store. Anyway, I stand at the entrance. It's like,
Did they look at you wrong?
Bloody normies!
Hey. Kids who come into comic stores are probably the biggest nerds ever.
No, my sister's kids don't care about comics, but they love, because I used to give them to them, and then just didn't really want them, but they love the video games, and they love the movies, and they love the cartoons. They've just got recently into that new Voltron series, which I've yet to watch, because I don't know. I'm an old Voltron fan, so I don't think I'm ready yet.
I forgot there's another comic book based video game. There's actually a couple of them off this, but I'm a big fan of the 2000 AD stuff. We were talking about that the other day, Hardcpy. But because there's multiple Judge Dredd games. I've only played the one that the one with Death, Judge Death, and that was good. But it was like the learning curve. It felt like these games. I'm just not. I guess I'm not a gamer. But the other one I played, and I know they did a remaster. I might want to check out the remaster. Is the Rogue Trooper game?
Oh yeah, I played a hell of a lot of that.
That was a great game, and they did an HD remaster.
You know what I call it? I call it a Disney war film, because everything talked. Like, his friends died, and he put his chip in his gun, and his gun talked, and everything talked in the end. And it was like a Disney war game. I'm telling you, yeah, I know. Hey, my talking gun agrees. Dude, guns don't talk. Mine does. If your gun talks to your kids, probably go seek some kind of mental help.
But that's the thing. It's like the New Earth stuff and everything. But I'd like to see more. Like even if a Wonder Woman game isn't tied into the movies, like maybe like similar to the movies, but not exactly, I'd be fine with that. But part of me kind of wishes, like I'm a big fan of the Halo Wars series. They're RTSs with the Halo franchise and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I would love for a Halo Wars style gameplay, which a lot of it's very similar to the Command and Conquer stuff, but it's much more streamlined. That's why I like the Halo Wars over Command and Conquer. I know that's sacrilege, but now whatever, it's pointless because Command and Conquer is dead. But I was like, nobody would play this game except me, but I would love for RTS New Gods game. The Warriors of Apocalypse, the Warriors of New Genesis, battling it out. You can send parademons into battle, those battle things.
Yeah, you've got huge armies in those.
Yeah, you could have the paratroopers, and then the heroes would be like, crap.
Like Orion and Calabac. Orion for the New Genesis side, Calabac for the Apocalyptian side. Like, Calabac is here, and they're crushing enemies, like this, whatever. And then you have to stop him, and then he's like, "I shall return, father." And like he it's like boom tubed away. Like that. I mean, like you can access boom tube and like be able to boom tube into your enemy's like area and then attack, but you only boom tube so many troops. But
that's a cool idea. I'd play that.
That's actually a really good idea.
You don't have to aim for the PC crowd because the consoles and RTS is a pain. But as far as like if say Warner Brothers Entertainment or Interactive, if they decided to go for like an Overwatch clone but with DC characters, I think they could probably make a killing. It's all the skin. Like you got the Kingdom
Come. Not about Overwatch, though. Overwatch is like a MOBA. It's not an RTS. I like your
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying. No, I'll finish talking about an RTS. But I'm saying go towards like that kind of thing.
If they no, but I like the RTS idea. Are you listening, Marvel?
Yeah.
Start making that. Probably not. Heaven forbid.
The DC has much better costumes and much better skins. You could have the '90s Wonder Woman skin. You could have the Kingdom Come Superman, the Superman Beyond, which is that very simple black and white, and then you could have Batman Beyond. You could have the electric blue Superman, Cyborg Superman skin, or actually have Cyborg Superman as like just have every villain possible or whatever. Like that kind of stuff would be fun.
You guys play the DC Universe game? I played like 5 minutes of it. And
I tried downloading it, and it was just too much, and I had to quit. I was like, "Is this big?" No, forget it. So I stopped. I canceled download.
Yeah, same. Well, I tried it, and I was just like, "This is playing like a fanboy of a character. I don't like it."
It's been fun, guys, but I'm gonna have to take off on you. I think you can keep talking for a little while.
Aren't you running it?
Well, I think if I leave, it'll still go for a while, but it's been about 2 hours either way, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I gotta get running shortly, but yeah, this is fun. This has been fun, and so thank you for having this and suggesting it. It's been a great talk with all y'all as always. This has been fun. But yeah, I gotta check out too. I was about to say I was about a minute or so. I was gonna say go ahead to go, but yeah. Till next time, folks. This has been fun, and we'll check you later. All right.
Yeah, have fun, man. I'll talk to you later.
You too now. Take care. All right. Bye.
Yeah, it was cool talking to you guys.